Welcome back to another episode of Ballers, Beers, and Banter. I'm here tonight with only Anthony. It's an Anthony and Moose episode. In fact,
What's
it.
up?
Oh,
Oh,
sorry,
sorry,
Anthony.
I cut you
I was
off
still
there.
going there. It will be a Moose and a Moose. Now look, you got me all over the place now. It's going to be a Moose and Anthony episode every Sunday for the foreseeable future. Dave will not be able to join us on Sunday nights. We're going to try to get some guest appearances in here, maybe a couple of Sunday night Seeger episodes where we'll have our pal Seeger come in and talk with us and see what he's up to. But for the time being, we got a few new segments we're going to air tonight. It's, I mean, I think Anthony and I are both exhausted. We've been waiting 6 months for tonight or today rather. Oh my goodness, how much football did we watch? It was all absolutely exciting.
Yep.
Some players did well, some players did poorly. The ups and downs were a roller coaster of emotions. But here we are about to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been crazy. Already, I'm going to go into work tomorrow a little upset. Had some teams perform really well, had some teams looking good right before the 4 o'clock game started, and then the 4 o'clock games, ruined my Sunday.
The
But
afternoon was
yeah,
it was a shady time of the day.
yeah,
It was the rain clouds came over. A lot of my players also performed poorly. I have a bet with Dave. We did a
all
beer
right.
bet to see whose team would win week one, and a couple of my players did not perform as expected, and it's all come down to the kicker, which is always the most exciting. But I think fortune will favor the kicker that I picked, and we'll find out tomorrow night who the winner of that beer bet is.
So, I know you guys were talking about it today, but this is in our main league, our two-player keeper, or is it our auction, or both? Because you played each other in both.
It's in the two-player keeper league.
Right. Okay. I mean, coming down to a kicker, this will be interesting because Dave usually bashes the kicker, and if he loses because of your kicker, he's gonna kick himself.
So it's important to pick a good
No
kicker.
pun intended.
All right, let's
All right.
roll into headlines.
Yeah, so already, week one, there's crazy injuries that happen. This is football. So here we go. Jeudy, high ankle sprain,
Brutal.
out 6 to 8 weeks. He was looking pretty good with Teddy Bridgewater. Denver looked good. Um, I mean, I guess this helps Cortland Sutton because he didn't look too good, but KJ Hamler looked fantastic. So, we'll talk a bit about him probably in the waiver wire episode tomorrow. But yeah, it sucks because Jerry Jeudy could have had a big year with Teddy Bridgewater under center.
Yeah, I don't think this is devastating to Denver necessarily.
Right.
Obviously, they've just lost a great asset in Jerry Jeudy, and it's really unfortunate that he got the high ankle sprain week one.
Yeah.
But like you said, for fantasy purposes, there's a lot of um, other guys on that team who now have an opportunity to step up.
Yeah, it's
So
a
it could be
very
interesting.
deep team. So offensively, they got a bunch of receivers. Noah Fant's still there. They got the two running backs, Melvin Gordon, Roman numeral 3, and Javonte Williams. So, yeah, but sucks because I know a lot of people were high on Jerry Jeudy, and sucks for him to be out this long after week one. All right. Some other injuries in game. Raheem Mostert, knee injury. He looked like he was going to get the majority of the touches or be the lead back in this game, and then, like we predicted,
Yeah, well, these kinds of situations, you don't want to sit here and be the guy saying toe to so. But past couple seasons, Raheem Mostert's knees just get injured. It's he wears a knee brace. He tweeted earlier in the off season, "Oh, why is everyone giving me a hard time? I always
mhm.
wear a knee brace. My knees are fine." And then his knees are not fine, which is it's very unfortunate because he is a talented player. He runs very very fast. It's exciting to watch him, but for fantasy purposes, he's just not reliable.
He's very risky, and I don't know about some of the other fantasy experts whether they take into account the injuries or injury-prone players and like drop them in the rankings based on that. Nobody wishes for injuries, but injuries are a main part of football. These
I,
guys get hurt
I
often.
think, but I think after 3 seasons, like I know a lot of people put the injury prone title on players, but I think after if it's been 3 seasons in a row, same injury, That's when you get injury prone. If you get the high ankle sprain and then you get a shoulder injury, then you get something else. I wouldn't necessarily
Yeah,
deem that
right.
injury prone, but it's like, oh, he hurt his knee again. Oh, he hurt his knee again. Oh, and there
Yeah,
goes
but
his knee
that's it.
again.
There are
Well,
some
I don't think
players.
his knees are gonna cut it any
Right,
longer.
right. Um, some other news. Well, we'll stick with San Francisco. Trey Sermon was inactive for this game, which I
For
think was
unknown reasons.
unknown reasons, was a shock to people. But I don't think uh, anybody was starting him. If you did, you were kind of hoping for him to take over as the lead back, or I don't know, to get be tricky on offense and like include him on some of the plays that were drummed up. But no, he was inactive. So interesting. Hopefully, we'll find out why soon, uh, to help us
I,
going forward.
my initial guess, I mean, any kind of off-field, whatever that might come out in the news later on from now, my initial thought was they've got Raheem Mostert, they've got Elijah Mitchell, they've got Jermichael Hasty.
Yeah.
Why do they need Trey Sermon right now? Let the
Right.
guy rest. There's 17 weeks. If he really is that good, assuming that San Francisco also knows that Raheem Mostert has a history of knee injury, they knew at some point Trey Sermon would be coming in to replace him anyways. Let
Yeah.
the guy rest. Let the guy
Yeah.
rest and practice, and for as long as Raheem Mostert can go out there, and I'm sure we'll see Trey Sermon next week, or there could be something else that we don't know about yet,
Yeah.
and we won't.
And I mean, they run the ball efficiently with the amount of running backs they have. Like everybody serves their purpose in the backfield there, and a bunch of them uh, got in on the red zone today. But we'll
Well, I
address
find
that
it
a little
I
later.
find it hilarious that Jermichael Hasty's like the goal line back.
Yeah,
He's like the smallest guy.
yeah. I don't know. He's gritty. He's gritty. Um, the other in injury, the other player that got injured in game, Ryan Fitzmagic. He went down with a hip injury, did not come back.
it's
Taylor
it's a hip suplection.
suplection. Oh, thank you uh for correcting me on
For the
that.
accuracy.
On the accuracy of his injury, more in depth.
Yeah, super unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean
Anthony put bad juju on him with that whole Tyler Heineke rumors in the preseason. It's on
but
you, Anthony.
well, I'm not gonna say that it's because of me. If we had the beer bet saying that even with injury, if Taylor Heineke came in, then I mean I give bad vibes to Fitzpatrick, but I mean
In
I
any
didn't.
event, it's super upsetting because for Terry McLaurin owners and well, Curtis Samuel has injured himself, but for Curtis Samuel owners, Logan Thomas owners, I think we were all very excited to have Ryan Fitzpatrick come in, a veteran presence. He's a good quarterback to really elevate the fantasy potential of these players. And it's a little bit discouraging to see him go out week one. And I imagine he's out for multiple weeks
Yeah.
at this point. And I mean, hopefully, we saw flashes of Taylor Heineke's potential at the end of last season, and yeah, maybe he'll take the next step.
I mean, Terry McLaurin, I mean, Fitzpatrick got injured pretty early, but Taylor Heineke he aired the ball out. McLaurin had some big plays. Logan Thomas, I believe Heineke is the one that threw the touchdown to him. I'm not sure about that, or maybe it was Fitzpatrick, but I mean, he's gonna be good enough for them. They love to run the ball, so even if they don't air the ball out a lot, which is what we wanted to see this season, I'm sure San Francisco will be fine. They have the running backs. San Francisco, sorry, Washington. They have Gibson there. Gibson looked good, and then they have the other receivers that they've tried to get the ball to. Like they look pretty good. They didn't get the win, obviously, but yeah, they should be okay with Taylor Heineke. And then some other notable mentions. Zach Moss was also inactive for unknown reasons. I think
Well, it's probably
I
that
don't think.
hamstring injury that's been nagging at him.
Yeah, I mean, we knew he was hampered by injury, but usually there's a little bit more information, like he's inactive due to injury. They just said he was inactive. So I don't know if he was also benched for a specific reason. Hopefully we also find out why or more details about it. But I mean, this is looking better for my beer bet with Dave that Devin Singletary will outperform Zach Moss this season. And then one more, um, Josh Jacobs. He's questionable for tomorrow's game with an illness. So keep an eye on that. If you own Josh Jacobs and you handcuffed Kenyon Drake to him, then get ready. Like, have your notifications on. Be ready, because we saw a lot of people today.
Every season though he has this. He has like an illness.
So it could be a situation where,
maybe he just ate a bad burrito.
Yeah, it could be later on in the season where he might deal with the same thing and he might be in or he might be out. You never know with him, but keep an eye on that situation. And I mean, some people got caught today in our leagues with the OBJ news and the Zach Moss news. In one of my other leagues, they weren't paying attention or maybe didn't have their notifications on, left OBJ in the lineup, or Trey Sermon. Somebody had Trey Sermon in their lineup. I mean, you got to pay attention. People, fantasy season has started. Turn on your notifications.
Yeah. All right, we're getting into the next segment then?
Yeah.
Are we doing my segment?
Let's do your segment. Yes.
All right. So we got a new segment tonight. This one is called the Sunday Night Gridiron Guillotine. And what this segment is, I'm gonna ask Anthony a couple names of players today who maybe performed less than what was expected, or maybe just not as exciting. And if Anthony would cut them from his team to pick somebody up off the waiver wire. All right, so the first one. You ready, Anthony?
Ready.
Ronald Jones. Would you cut him from your team to pick up a more opportune running back off the waiver wire? Or do you think he's going to make a turnaround next week?
I would advise people. So what I would personally do is I would keep him. I don't own him like myself on any of my teams because I wasn't high on him this season. But for those of you who drafted him, keep him, wait and see. He did fumble. He did the same thing last year, but from week to week, we don't know who's going to get the ball in Tampa Bay. And I mean, he finished, I believe it was 16th overall for the RBs last season. So don't drop him yet.
Would you try to trade him if you could? I guess that option is also out there.
Yes, I would try to package him with some other players, maybe some players that you might bring up in this segment.
Okay. What about Russell Gage?
Oh, goodness.
Big goose egg today from Russell Gage.
Big goose egg. The worst. 0 points. No, don't drop him. Atlanta disappointed everyone. Kyle Pitts played terribly. Calvin Ridley didn't do that well. Matt Ryan was awful. But this is an offense that's going to have to air the ball out. Maybe Philadelphia's defense was a lot better than we thought it would be. So let's just say, forget about this week.
All right, so he's shaking off the rust. Keep him on your team.
Yeah.
All right, here's one because everybody was a little bit excited about this, and we had spoken about it, I think, last episode because there was a couple people ahead of him. So Michael Carter did not do so well today.
No.
You keep him around his depth? What do you do?
I would keep him. He's more on the fence for me. I think some people can drop him because there will be quite a few running backs available on the waiver wire. I would say drop him. We did mention last episode that he is third or fourth on the depth chart.
Yeah, behind some people that he probably should have beaten out for being a rookie, for being younger and healthier.
So I would drop him.
I tend to be in agreement. If I had to pick up a waiver wire option, I think I would also drop Michael Carter after today's performance. Right. All right, this one is going to be potentially controversial. It's a player that I have on one of my teams, but today it did not go well for Tyler Boyd. Is Tyler Boyd? I in my opinion, you have to keep Tyler Boyd because I think Cincinnati could have, he can feed all three receivers. I know we've spoken about this in the past,
Yep.
but if you're stuck, let's say you got a couple injuries, are you thinking about cutting Tyler Boyd?
I would not, because depth is everything. This is a guy. I compare the Cincinnati Bengals to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They each have three receivers that they're going to try and air the ball to.
Well,
I think Tyler
plus,
Boyd is
I think defenses wanted to see if Jamar Chase could actually catch the ball,
right,
which he did.
Yes. So I mean, he might struggle against a tougher D. I don't know.
Well, they're good. They're going to have to respect Jamar Chase at this point.
Right. Exactly.
I think week one they just anticipated he would do the job for them by dropping the ball, but now they know he's got hands, so they it's going to open up, ideally open up some space for Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, Boyd was targeted 4 times, caught 3 of 4. Higgins targeted 5 times. Jamar Chase was targeted 7 times. So I mean, Jamar Chase looked like the lead receiver, but Tyler Boyd is that guy. I put him in the realm of Juju Smith-Schuster or Jarvis Landry if OBJ was there, where they're going to be a guy that will catch majority of their targets, and you know, un they won't they don't have a high ceiling, so they'll get you like low double digits if anything, but it won't be consistent from week to week, because clearly Joe Burrow has a rapport with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins last year, so they want the young guys to come up. So Tyler Boyd is kind of that reliable receiver in some games with a tougher defensive matchup, where I think he might be more successful, but do not drop him.
Okay, I agree with that 100%.
Maybe don't start him until you see something from him. Hopefully there's more depth on your team, but yeah.
Okay, so this one's an interesting one because I think people were still drafting him. Well, probably not that high actually, but people probably were drafting him. Rashad Penny, and there was interesting developments. I didn't watch the Seattle game, but I'm looking at the scores here, and it seems like Alex Collins was non-existent.
He was non-existent.
Non-existent. So I think rolling into the season, as far as I knew, Alex Collins was supposed to be the backup to Chris Carson, but it would appear it's DJ Dallas.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic news for me. I recently picked him up in our Dynasty League. So I hope this is the case, because I was under the impression that DJ Dallas was like a fringe, and it was either Rashad Penny or Alex Collins taking up the backup duties. But I mean, Rashad Penny seems to only have gotten 2 carries for 8 yards, already dealing with another injury.
Right. We advise people not to draft him. So
yeah,
I would
I think he's a straight up cut. I think you just, even if you don't need someone off the waiver wire, just cut him.
Yeah. I will say this though, when everybody talks about let Russ cook, the backup running backs or the RB, so DJ Dallas had 1 carry and 1 reception. Chris Carson 16 carries, 91 yards. He did fumble, so he should have had more points than he actually did. But Russell Wilson aired out the ball a lot. We saw Lockett 100 yards, 2 TDs, Metcalf 60 yards, 1 TD. Even Gerald Everett got it in there, got a TD, 20 yards, and Will Disley. So I mean, they're gonna air the ball out a lot more. They have this safe, if they don't have to rely on Chris Carson to run the ball all the time, maybe he can be healthy the whole season, but he won't have as many big games as he's used to, I believe. But they didn't run the ball that much, so I mean, for dynasty purposes, DJ Dallas is a good pickup, but for redraft, I wouldn't pick up any of these guys. I'd definitely drop Rashad Penny.
Yeah. All right, Rashad Penny's out of here. Okay, here, Anthony. This one is close to the both of us because you had him as a Marquis of the mid-round / sleeper, and I've just always believed him. Mecole Hardman as the wide receiver 2 on the Chiefs. I mean, I saw bits and pieces of this game. Let me tell you, Patrick Mahomes was airing that ball out, and unfortunately, Mecole saw none of it, or very little of it. So how do you feel? Do you keep him around?
I still, I would still keep him around. Kansas City seemed to struggle early against the Cleveland Browns. I mean, McCole Hardman was
I mean,
still the wide
I,
receiver 2.
I'll be honest. I think they were just toying with the Browns. They're like, oh, Cleveland, you think you can compete? And so they let them score a couple touchdowns, and they're like, let me show you how to play football.
Yeah,
And then they showed them how to play football.
this is classic Kansas City. They wait till like the end of the third, fourth quarter to really just show up and then destroy teams.
I mean, that 75-yard touchdown to Tyreek Hill was
Yeah,
absolutely bonkers.
it was bonkers. And Tyreek Hill, 15 targets. Travis Kelce, 7 targets. So it seems like they're gonna do that again. Only 3 targets for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I mean,
Here's one good thing to note about, because let's not get carried away here. We were talking about
Yeah.
McCole Hardman, so let's keep
Yeah.
it on track. One thing to note: 3 of 3 receptions.
Yes.
So
He caught all
drop
his balls.
balls has been a consistent theme with what's his name, Demarcus Robinson,
hmm
who dropped 1 of 2. And the big thing that people always bring up when talking about McCole Hardman is that his hands are rocks and he can't catch a ball. So the fact that he caught all 3 of the balls that were tossed his way is fantastic news.
Right.
In my opinion, I'd keep him on my
Yeah,
bench. I wouldn't
keep
cut
him.
him just yet. I think Kansas City was just wanted to show everybody what they got.
Yeah.
And there's going to be more work for McCole Hardman down the line.
Absolutely.
Okay, I got maybe 2 or 3 more. I realize
All right.
we got a lot of names here. This one is going to be super controversial. You ready for this?
Yep.
Aaron Rodgers. Disaster today.
Disaster. I mean, I had him in our main league, our 2-player keeper, and I mean, he was the reason why I lost. Basically, going into the 4 o'clock games, I was supposed to win. I had the major. He
go ahead.
bombed.
He bombed. He only completed 15 of 28 passes, 2 interceptions. Not great.
Not great. I think this was his worst performance since being the starter in Green Bay. So, maybe this is karma.
Maybe he's just getting old.
Yeah, I mean, if he wants to show everyone that he deserves to be a Super Bowl champ and he wants to get on other teams, I mean, he can't do this again. This was devastating to fantasy teams. He looked bad.
He also looked less than thrilled to be playing football.
Right.
He did not look excited to be there, even before he started throwing interceptions. He did not look motivated.
He reminded me of Jay Cutler, when Jay Cutler would just like just completely remove himself from the game if he's like frustrated. So it seemed like that's what Rodgers was doing. And I mean, you can't blame anyone else. He wasn't making great throws. He was off. He was very off today. But I mean, you can't drop Aaron Rodgers. I mean, on my team, I'm not going to pick up another QB to play in place of him next week. You just have to, forget about this week and go into the next week and believe that he is still the Aaron Rodgers that we all know.
Yeah, the next person I had on the list, it's a little bit of a segue here, was Marquis Valdez-Scantling. You don't have to talk about it. It was a headline that came out a while ago saying that he was supposed to have a breakout season and that him and Aaron Rodgers were really having a strong rapport. No, not true.
No.
Every pass was overthrown. They did not look like they were in sync at all. Disaster.
But on whose side? Yeah, so
both.
I mean...
both.
He got 3 of 8.
Yeah, it did not look great. So if you have Marquis Valdez-Scantling, you can hang on to him for hopes that things turn around next week, but it does not look great.
And what a pain that just to mention, he wanted Randall Cobb over there, but only threw to him once. So I mean,
that's the thing. Well, I mean, I was going back and forth through a couple of the games, but anytime I was watching Green Bay on offense, Aaron Rodgers, for all the garbage he talked about Marquis Valdez-Scantling, about him dropping balls and all this, he sure does target him a lot. You know, so it's a very strange situation over there. All right, next one, rolling up because it's interesting topic this week in New York. The exciting news was that Saquon Barkley would be back. And then today it was, there'll be no limits. He'll be fantastic. He's ready to go. And then there was reports saying that Saquon Barkley would not tell us whether he'd be 100% or not. And right before game time, oh, he's out there, he's 100%, yada yada. And then he did not have a very successful day. So he is definitely not someone you're cutting from your team. He's not the person we're talking about. The person we are talking about is Devontae Booker, because Devontae Booker was supposed to be the fill-in if Saquon Barkley was not 100%, and he did even worse than Saquon Barkley.
I mean, it's hard to assess this because they didn't really run the ball. 4 carries for Devontae Booker and 10 carries for Saquon Barkley. So they were playing from behind. I mean, at the start of the game, they looked to be in rhythm, but I don't know. To me, you should have ran the ball a little more, and maybe they don't trust their backs. Like, I mean, I don't know if the 10 carries for Barkley was due to injury. They want to limit his carries, but they didn't really give the ball to Devontae Booker, and I don't know if they were just not happy with what they saw or if they just couldn't go that way.
But is he a dead weight handcuff on your bench? Like, can you? I think in my opinion, you can cut him and free him up with somebody else.
Yeah, that's it.
Pick up someone's Michael Carter or something.
Yeah, that's it.
I think Devontae Booker's years are behind him now.
Yeah. I mean, well, we can bring up we'll bring up some people on our waiver wire episode tomorrow, but in some of our other segments that we'll have right after this one, there will be some people mentioned that you should look at instead of keeping Devontae Booker on your team.
Yeah. So that's my list for tonight's Sunday night Gridiron Guillotine. So you guys, listeners, you can be the judges. And if you have people on your bench where you're on the fence, oh, I don't know if I should cut this guy or not, send us an email. Hit us up on Instagram or Twitter. Say, let us know. I've got these guys on my team, and I think maybe I can improve here or there. Is this guy cuttable, or is he going to bounce back? We'll let you know what we think.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, going into our next segment, this is a new one as well. It's called the Tall Boy of the Week. And for those of you who don't know, we're Ballers, Beers, and Banter. Beers are part of this podcast. So a tall boy is a big can, a 16-ounce can of beer. So, I mean, the more beer, the merrier.
Can you give us a milliliterage?
Oh, goodness.
I think it's like 750.
Probably something like that. It's just the bigger can. So...
It's a bigger bottle. The tall boy is the bottle. It's the big beer bottle.
Right. Big beer bottle, but I see like in the States, they have some beers that say tall boy on them in can form. So just the bigger version of a regular can or a regular bottle of beer. So the more beer, the better. So also the players that we're going to give these this award to, or the tall boy,
the title
to, are players that weren't expected to perform at the top of their positional category. So we're going to pick one from each position.
They were supposed to be a regular can of beer, and they stepped it up to the tall boy can of beer.
Right. They're on our radar now. They're guys for us to watch out for. All right. So starting at QB, I have Jameis Winston with 29.6 points.
Boom. Did they ever make the right decision in picking him over Taysom non-existent today Hill?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was also a stat which is ridiculous because Winston seems to find himself in these weird categories. So he was the first quarterback with 5 touchdowns to have less than 200 yards passing. I believe he had 148.
Yeah, because he does one play touchdown. It's kind of like Patrick Mahomes. You know, he just bombs it accurately to a wide receiver and they score.
Yeah. So, I mean, he was super efficient, 14 for 20. He didn't, I mean, Kamara did what he's supposed to do. He didn't really have that many receptions. He did have a reception touchdown, but had 20 carries for 83 yards. And it was more he spread the ball out to the receiving core and the tight ends.
Juwan Johnson,
which I think is another Robert Tonyan situation, because he's listed here as wide receiver, in the wide receiver category for the in-game score, but in the stat line, he's under tight end. So he is our tight end tall boy choice as well, who finished with 15.6 fantasy points. And we're talking about half point PPR here.
Yeah.
All
He
right.
leaped up for his first touchdown.
Oh my goodness.
It was very awesome to watch.
Yeah. And I mean, it wasn't based on yardage. He had 3 targets. He caught all 3 of his targets, and he had 2 touchdowns. So, I mean, with tight ends, touchdowns are a thing. So it's nice to see that he's targeted in the end zone. And I mean, sorry, Dave, Troutman, not looking too good. Caught 3 of 6 for 18 yards. So your sleeper or your Marquis, I think it was a sleeper, not looking so good in game 1. All right, going over to running back, we have Elijah Mitchell with 16.4 fantasy points. Now, Moose, you're the guy who was able to call out the running backs that would do well or leap to RB1 category on the San Francisco 49ers last year.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we don't wish for injury, but they're always the backfield always seems to be injured. So there's always new faces making their way into the NFL, making their way onto your fantasy team. This is a guy we'll for sure talk about tomorrow on the waiver wire episode.
Well, this is the thing. So what's really interesting about Elijah Mitchell is that he was someone I was aware of. His metrics are better than Trey Sermon.
Mm-hmm.
I believe he's a little bit bigger as well, but not much out of camp about him. They kept him pretty quiet, no hype, really.
Mm-hmm.
So I was more inclined to think that maybe he was going to be a depth piece for them, especially when Wayne Gallman was there as well. And then they cut Wayne Gallman. We knew Raheem Mostert would be the starter. So much hype about Trey Sermon. So assuming that Trey Sermon would take that number 2 role, and then that's it. It would be Jermichael Hasty or Elijah Mitchell. However, with this weird healthy scratch of Trey Sermon and Elijah Mitchell coming out and exactly doing what his metrics said he would do, it's very interesting. And also, like to note that Jermichael Hasty got 8 points on the day, scored a touchdown.
Yep.
So that I think more than ever, the concern in the last couple of seasons with when Matt Breida was there and Tevin Coleman was there, along with Raheem Mostert eventually, it was like this 3-headed nightmare for fantasy. And I think we're gonna be right back there. Until we know what happens to Trey Sermon. Obviously, it's going to be Elijah Mitchell, Jermichael Hasty show.
Yeah. And Kyle Juszczyk gets in there, but obviously not worthy of a roster position.
Yeah. So I think this is the reason why everybody stays away from San Francisco. One, because it can be extremely lucrative, mm-hmm. but who knows what's going to go on week to week. So if you have, who did we say here? If you have Michael Carter and you can get Elijah Mitchell off the waiver wire, do it.
Right.
If you have Devontae Booker, go get Elijah Mitchell. 100%. Ronald, I would do the Ronald Jones. I would get rid of Ronald Jones and put in Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah, so I would agree with that because look at this. Elijah Mitchell had 19 carries. Jermichael Hasty had 1 carry and 1 reception. So as it stands right now, we don't know how long Mostert's out. We don't know what's going on with Trey Sermon, how long he'll be out. If it's only those 2, I mean, that stat line for Elijah Mitchell, he's the guy.
Yeah. I mean, in previous years, Raheem's knee injuries were about 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
So we're looking at least probably 3 weeks.
Okay. All right. And then...
All right. We got way off track here. So let's talk. Who's our next tall boy?
Our next tall boy at the wide receiver position is Deebo Samuel, my sleeper.
We're staying in San Francisco.
Yeah, we're staying in San Francisco. I mean, that's a player we didn't mention, Brandon Ayuk. He wasn't listed as out or inactive, but he didn't nothing was thrown his way.
But he was just coming off that hamstring injury, and he was, by all accounts, he was healthy. But yeah, nothing went his way today.
Yeah.
Very, very strange. There's a lot of disappointed people out there, I'll tell you. I'm one of those people. I had Brandon Ayuk in my flex position in one of my leagues,
Yeah.
and it was pretty disappointing because
Yeah.
we had hyped him up a little bit. Well, we had hyped Debo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk up, saying both of them offer value in San Francisco,
Yeah.
and I guess we let you down a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, Brandon Ayuk let us all down, but then we also let you down. But more
Right.
focus on Brandon letting you down.
Yeah, we were both like our entire podcast. We said you can't go wrong with either one of them. But I said if I had to pick one, I would pick Debo. He's my sleeper. Caught 9 of 12 receptions, 189 yards, 1 TD. He fumbled once, so his stat line would have been better. He finished with 26.4 fantasy points and half point PPR. He's the go-to guy. The next guy was this guy Sherfield, 23 yards, 1 touchdown, and Mohamed Sanu with 1 catch for 7 yards. So I mean, Debo's the guy. Kittle got in there a little bit. He fumbled as well. Could have had a better stat line and better final. He would have had 8.8 points. So I mean, he didn't wow anyone today. But Debo, definitely a guy I think you can look to and slot into your lineup if you didn't start him this week, especially with Ayuk being hampered by injury. And it says Ayuk did play and didn't get a target, but his hamstring was really bugging him. That dropped him in the depth chart. All right, so those are our tall boys, and we're not going to really get into kickers and defense, but we have some mentions or some defenses you should keep an eye on that seem to be very efficient and very good today. The Saints D, Pittsburgh D, and Arizona D. I know Arizona beefed up their D in the offseason. Pittsburgh, they were a stacked defense before, but we thought that maybe Buffalo would still win that game, but they stopped Buffalo. I mean, it's crazy. And then the Saints. I mean, the Saints made the Green Bay Packers look terrible.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I feel you. People that started Green Bay players, Devontae Adams didn't get in double digits. Aaron Rodgers did not. Aaron Jones did not. So
yeah, Aaron Jones owners got to be feeling it today because I think everybody was really hyped about Aaron Jones coming out and just killing it.
Yeah.
And it couldn't be farther from that.
Yeah.
But that's fantasy football, folks.
That's fantasy
Ups
football.
and downs.
Yeah. And while we're on the subject of beers, just to go over for our listeners, our how do we title it? It's slipping my mind right now. The
I have
beer
no idea
meter,
what you're trying to tell me to title.
The beer rating, our beer rating system.
I think we called it the I think we just called it the beer rankings.
The beer rankings. And to recap what that
beer
is,
bottle risk rankings.
Beer bottle risk rankings. So basically, we're doing our start sits a little differently this year. It's based on how risky the play is.
How safe and how risky.
Right. How safe and how risky they are based on a 6-pack of beer. So 6 beers would be not risky
Safe.
at all, would be the safest play, and 1 beer would be the riskiest play. And we felt that this is better for you listeners because to have a player be black or white in the sense that he's either going to hit or he's going to miss it doesn't really give you enough insight on defenses could be affected or how the defenses could affect the performance of a player or a player being injury prone, how that might affect a player. So basically the 3 of us come up with our own rankings for certain players, and then we have our consensus beer ranking. So just to go over quickly.
Yeah. Also, we're also one of our targets for this podcast was, to help people who are new to fantasy football and to learn a bit about fantasy football. And at the same time, even people who do know how to play fantasy football, if we just sat here and told you what to do every week,
yeah,
you're not really playing fantasy football. So we're going to give you, this is to give you like a pretty good guideline of, how we see, the safest players and the riskiest players. And then, you be the judge. You can take our advice into account But realistically, you're setting your lineup. So if you disagree with us and think that what we think is safe is risky to you, you make that call. But we want to help nudge you in the right direction as best we can.
Right. So for the most part, I think we did a pretty good job at helping a bunch of people. So we'll start. Logan Thomas, we gave him 4 beers out of 6, finished with 10.5 points. You were a little lower on him than Dave and I, and rightfully so. You believed last year that Alex Smith being there, checking down to him, elevated his game, and which is why he had a lot of targets. He wasn't targeted that much, didn't have that many yards this game, but got the touchdown and made him fantasy relevant for the tight end position. He finished with 10.5 points. This again is half point PPR.
This might change now. This is the beauty of fantasy football, is that now with Taylor Henneke coming in, I mean, we could be right back to check down central.
Right. But he caught all of his targets, 3 for 3, 30 yards and a touchdown. Our next guy is Chase Edmonds, who also got 4 out of 6 beers. I was a little lower on him. I think as you were too, Moose, because...
I put him at a 3 because it was, in my eyes, it was 50-50 whether it was going to be Chase Edmonds or James Conner.
Yeah, Dave was the highest on him. I believe Dave had him at 5 beers out of 6. And for the same reason that you put him at 3, I believe I put him at 3. They both got work, but it's James Conner had more carries, but Chase Edmonds was able to do more with the work that he was given, and he did get 4 receptions as well, which James Conner was not targeted out of the backfield. So that's the advantage that Chase Edmonds will provide for your team if you're deciding between, if you have both of them on your team, if you want to handcuff one of them. I doubt people have both these players on their team, but Chase Edmonds is the play for this team in half-point PPR or PPR leagues because he will receive passes out of the backfield, and he finished with 12.6 points. So he was a risky play. We gave him 4 out of 6 beers, and he showed up. We'll go to some of our ones that didn't hit. We had 2 guys from the Atlanta Falcons offense. We had Matt Ryan with 6.36 points. Awful. We thought he could be a spot start for people who had, a starting QB that didn't have such a great matchup. He sucked. I don't know if it was Philadelphia's D, as we mentioned before, that might be a little bit better than we thought they would be, but
maybe Matt Ryan's on the off here. Maybe we miscalculated.
Well, when you asked me this last episode, technically, if last year was supposed to be his on year and this year was supposed to be his off year, it was an off year last year, and I think he's right back on the normal schedule where it's going to be his off year. And I mean, they're bad. You guys have a beer bet for who's going to finish last between the Houston Texans and the Balsawood Jets or the New York Jets. I mean, I think Atlanta. I might get in on this beer bet.
Texans won a game today, didn't they?
Yeah.
Texans, okay, good.
Yeah,
so I'm up one.
And they look good.
Yeah, but who knows? Maybe it's just week 1. Maybe it's shaking some rust off. I mean, if Jared Goff can score somewhere in the realm of 29 fantasy points, I think Matt Ryan can turn it around.
Yeah.
But
and then
it was not this week.
Yeah, it was not this week. And our other Atlanta player was Kyle Pitts. We had it 4 out of 6 beers. He finished with 5.1 fantasy points. Again, don't be worried about Pitts.
That's only like 1 or 2 points behind George Kittle.
Right. So it's week 1. I'm sure they're going to air the ball out a lot. They're terrible. So, I mean, I think a lot of analysts were off on how they predicted this game would go. So we apologize. But if you drafted Kits, you were playing Kits. If we told you to spot Kyle Pitts, I said Kits. Did I say Kits?
You said Kits.
I had Kittle and Pitts in my mind. But we apologize if we told you to spot start Matt Ryan. Raheem Mostert we didn't hit on as well. He left the game with an injury.
Raheem, it doesn't count because of injury. But I think we should get one because, people who've been listening to the show, I'm a Patriots fan, and I've had some choice words about Cam Newton and his his attitude and how he performed in New England. Mac Jones came out today, looked amazing.
Yes, he did.
I'll dial the hype back a little bit. He looked good. He looked good for a rookie. His passes were accurate. He did not look panicked. He looked like he'd been playing in the NFL before. It did not look like his first real NFL game. However, we had Nelson Aguilar at a 1 beer as a very risky play. Nelson Aguilar has been known to drop balls, and in my opinion, I think even though I was very excited to see Mac Jones play, and I was confident that he was a far superior quarterback than Cam Newton, I thought maybe that he would go to maybe Jonnu Smith or somebody else, and with Nelson Aguilar's drop history, he was a risk. Turns out that's not the case.
Right, and this is the key thing about us doing our start sits this way on risk, on how risky the player can be. Our risk factor was at 1, but the reason why he was at a 1 is because we didn't know who would get the ball on this team. So yes, he did get 15.7 points, but still, I think he's a huge risk going forward because Jacoby Myers had more targets than he did, caught 6 of 9, and Aguilar is the one who got the touchdown. So if he didn't get the touchdown, he would be
around
maybe
11 points.
Yeah. So he's still a risky play, but Mac Jones looks better than we thought he would. This segment, this is the perfect player. I'm glad we included him in it. Allen Robinson, Roman numeral 2. We said that he didn't get into the double digits last year when they played the Rams because he was going against Jalen Ramsey. We said nobody's going to bench him, but he was a very risky play. And to have a great flex to maybe compensate for his lack of performance. He ended up finishing with 6.5 fantasy points in half-point PPR. So we warned you. We had him 3 out of 6 beers. The Rams defense is a top-notch defense. And even though Allen Robinson is able to be, he's probably one of the most consistent wide receivers out there. It's just against the Rams, Jalen Ramsey is just amazing.
He's the best.
So this is why it's not a black and white situation. The risk was high here, so that's why you got 3 beers. A few of our other guys, some guys that we had at 6 beers, Jonathan Taylor, 14.6 points, DeAndre Hopkins, 23.3 points. These guys we hit on. Obviously, these are guys you're not going to bench. These are guys you're going to play even against tough defenses. But they hit. Another guy that we were low on that we were correct, Kenny Golladay. Guys, everybody was, saw the value in him being a wide receiver 1 on a team that is going to have to air it out a lot. And where he went in the draft, he went super late in drafts, later than he should with what he's done in the past. But he's an injury-prone guy. There was talks out of camp that the connection between him and Daniel Jones wasn't there. He finished with 8.4 fantasy points. This is not what you want to see from a number 1 wide receiver. Sterling Shepard, who's been there for a while, is the one that was the most successful from the receiving core. Golladay 2nd and Darius Slayton 3rd. I think we went through everyone. We have a couple more.
Well, for the Monday night's game.
For the Monday night game, Tyson Williams at 3 beers and Lamar at 6. So we'll dive into those come Monday. But guys,
tomorrow's Monday.
Yeah, tomorrow. So guys, and Moose, I'm super excited about fantasy football, and especially if you've listened to us in the past, if you listened to our Marquis de la mid-round episode.
That was pretty good, Anthony. You've been practicing?
Maybe it's just the beer. I've been having a few beers today, so I'm loosened up.
Not bad.
And our sleeper episodes, if you listen to us, I mean, right now I'm on fire. Jamal Williams, one of my guys, 21 points. Matthew Stafford, over 24 points. Jarvis Landry.
I don't think I'm on fire. I don't remember who my 3 guys were at this point, but I don't think they did well this week.
Well, one of your guys was Michael Gallup. He was looking good, but is out for 3 to 5 weeks now. I think Blake Jarwin was one of yours too.
Yeah.
I mean, yet to be seen, but it seemed like him and Schultz will split it. Brian Edwards, we'll see tomorrow.
That's right.
Expecting big things from him. But even what I wanted to mention again, Corey Davis, 24.2 fantasy points. I mean, woo, we told you. This was, when you look for value late in drafts, guys with wide receiver one potential that, especially on a team like the Jets where, you know, they have a new coaching staff, they have a new quarterback, they go and acquire players. Corey Davis got paid as the wide receiver one, and then behind him you have like Denzel Mims, Barrios, and Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore 1 for 4, -3 yards, 0.2 points. I mean,
but however,
yeah.
I will say this: I think Elijah Moore is going to be like the Justin Jefferson of last season. Do not cut him.
Right. Yeah.
Wait. Do not. That's why I didn't bring him up in the guillotine segment, because he's not someone you should even consider about dropping. He's very talented and maybe just needs a couple of games to get things going. So
well, we should have brought him up. Don't cut him. Don't cut him.
But that's why I didn't want to bring it up, because the guillotine guys were considering cutting. So I didn't want to bring it into the people's minds thinking, oh, I'm going to cut Elijah Moore. Don't cut him. Wait a couple weeks. Let's see where it goes, because he definitely is talented enough to be the number 2 there.
Yeah.
And it might just be, Zach Wilson getting used to the offense. The New York Jets are a young team. So, even though there is quite a bit of talent there, it's going to take a little while for them to really get things moving. So, hang on to him.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, Michael Pittman hasn't really showed up yet. I know Indianapolis struggled against Seattle defense, but again, a guy like Pittman, don't drop either. Even Moose's guy,
Paris Campbell.
I know they didn't do well this game. Hang on to him. I don't think Zach Pascal.
I mean, I'm sure they haven't exactly been practicing at full speed with Carson Wentz either. I mean, he only just came back from the foot injury, from the foot surgery.
Yeah.
So I imagine things. He might be a little bit rusty as well. It's week 1, folks. There's 16 more weeks to go. So this is the key point. I was talking with a friend of ours, and fantasy football for us, the people who aren't actually playing football, this is the mental game. So what happens is weeks like 1 through 4, everybody's gung ho, but the people who are losing kind of drop off a bit, and that's when you take advantage, because they stop playing the waiver wire and you just start scooping up all the value. So even though you might have lost week 1, and you're super excited for week 1 and you lost, just stick with it. It's only week 1. There's 16 more weeks. There's plenty more wins to come. So just stick with it.
Yeah, we've explained this to everyone before. Moose has won 3 titles in our main league, our 2-player keeper, and he's the waiver wire wizard.
Yeah.
You got to play the waiver wire. So it's a long season. Week 1, teams are working out the kinks. Like, the nerves are there. Look at Aaron Rodgers. I mean, do you expect Aaron Rodgers to put up like 6 points again? No, you expect him to get back to normal. And some of these young teams, like we said, Elijah Moore didn't really do anything today, but this is a team that is trying to find their way. Like we mentioned, new coaching staff, new QB. They're trying to get guys worked in. It might take a couple games, like Justin Jefferson, like Moose mentioned before. Dave dropped him last year, and then somebody, was it you who swooped him up?
You better believe it.
Yeah, Moose swooped him up, and then he hit. So it's week 1, guys. Don't panic yet. Yeah. Believe in your team watch the waiver wire.
That's it. Your goal now is just to keep improving your team every week and make playoffs. That's all you got to focus on right now. Make playoffs. And then, once you're in playoffs, well, then we'll talk about playoffs.
Yeah. And there's one thing for all you people that are new to fantasy, or even the vets. Some veteran players of fantasy forget about this. The players on your team that have their games scheduled for the 4:00 games or the Monday night games or the Sunday night game, put them in your flex. You don't want to put guys playing at the 1:00 game in your flex. because if there's an injury, God forbid, or an inactive like OBJ, I saw some people with who had a guy in the 1 o'clock games in their flex, OBJ in the wide receiver spot, didn't have any other wide receivers to put in and couldn't replace him because they had running backs on their bench or tight ends and QBs, which we also say don't put on your bench. Have one. So basically he was stuck with a 0. Put the players in the later games in your flex. Don't forget to do that. Brutal. It saves you a whole world of hurt. Would you agree, Moose?
I 100% agree. Okay, well, I think that's it for fantasy football talk. Anthony, I know you and I were very interested in the Witcher animated movie that was on Netflix.
Yes.
Did you watch it in the end?
Yes, I did.
Well,
it was very
also
good.
I really enjoyed it. It was super violent. Anyone who's going to watch it, it's if you're familiar with The Witcher, it's exactly what you might expect. There's monsters, there's blood, there's gore, there's magic. It's fantastic. It's a prequel to I guess the books, if you will.
Yes.
It's
gives you a little bit of a history about the Witcher community and how it came to be and what happened to them.
Yes, it's about so Geralt of Rivia is the main character in the Witcher series, and this movie is about the Witcher who trained him, whose name at the moment escapes me.
Yeah, it's escaping me too.
It's something with a V.
Yes.
But, anyways, watch the movie, you'll get the name.
Yeah, so if you guys are fans of The Witcher and you watched the live action one that was released on Netflix and you were like, what happened to all the Witchers? Why does he see what's his name
or
again?
Just why do they do the things they do? And it explains it all. Yeah.
What's the main actor's name? Geralt of Rivia? Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Geralt of Rivia. He was like, there's another Witcher. Like, questions will be answered with this this animated movie.
Yeah, it was a good watch.
Fantastic. I don't know. Other than that, I haven't been watching much. It's been football, and I mean, tonight's game, the Bears didn't pull off the win. Didn't expect them to, but they did look pretty good. They held their own for a while, but Andy Dalton didn't look that bad.
He didn't look that great either, though.
No, it was a bad start to the. Actually, the start of the game looked very good for them, but he threw an interception in the end zone. Not good.
I mean, yeah, it was an interception.
And I picked. Of course, I got to bring this up again. Week 1 hype, but I did pick the Rams to go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl.
Oh my goodness, do they ever look like they're going to do that?
Matt Stafford is having a ball out there.
Yeah, they look. They're a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah,
it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, and of course,
all right,
guys,
folks.
Games tomorrow.
Well, I guess that's us wrapping it up. Always put your best foot forward. Now more than ever, get yourself to the playoffs. We'll catch you next time.
Yep. Ciao.